Okay, so let's talk about an arms deal that's, well, it's about way more than just fighter jets. This is a high stakes chess match that could completely reshape the strategic balance of the Middle East. And it all revolves around one single incredible piece of military hardware. Let's get into it. And to get a sense of the sheer scale here, just look at that number. Back in May of 2017, the Trump administration approved a massive arms package for Saudi Arabia. And while it didn't include the F-35 right out of the gate, it absolutely laid the groundwork for the intense negotiations we're seeing today. And the item that's at the heart of all of this, it's the F-35 Lightning II, of course. This is not just another plane. We're talking about a fifth-generation stealth fighter, the absolute pinnacle of aerial combat technology. It's the crown jewel for any modern Air Force, and for a long time, only one nation in the Middle East has had access to it. So that brings us to the big question, right? Why is the potential sale of this one aircraft causing such a massive stir? It's because this deal bumps up against decades of American foreign policy, regional power dynamics, and some very long-standing security guarantees.
So first things first, let's break down who the key players are in this high-stakes game and what exactly makes the F-35 such a critical prize for every single one of them. When you look at the major players, you can see everyone's got a different goal. For Saudi Arabia, this is all about boosting their ability to deter threats and achieving a kind of military balance. For the US, it's a powerful tool to try and create regional stability and lock in a key alliance. And for Israel, well, it's about a core security principle, maintaining their military edge in a really tough neighborhood. You really have to understand how historic this shift would be. If this deal goes through, Saudi Arabia becomes the very first Arab nation to fly a fifth-generation stealth jet. That would completely break Israel's exclusive regional monopoly on the F-35, a status it has guarded very closely for years. Now let's get into how this sale is tangled up in a much, much bigger geopolitical negotiation. Because this really isn't just about military hardware. It's a massive bargaining chip in a huge diplomatic game. And this isn't something that just popped up overnight. The interest from Riyadh goes all the way back to 2017. And after some earlier talks fell apart, you can see that the proposal is once again moving up to the highest levels of the Pentagon. This thing has real momentum.
So here's the real kicker. Reports suggest that Washington is tying the sale of these jets to a truly landmark diplomatic prize, a normalization agreement between Saudi Arabia and Israel. The F-35 isn't just the goal, it might be the key that unlocks a whole new chapter for the Middle East.
Okay, so to really understand all the controversy and the pushback here, we need to talk about a concept that's been a cornerstone of U.S. policy in the region for decades. It's called the Qualitative Military Edge.
So this QME thing, it's not just a guideline or a nice idea. It is a legal requirement, actually written into U.S. law. It basically obligates Washington to make sure that any weapons it sells in the region don't threaten Israel's ability to defend itself by always having a technological and tactical advantage.
And that's why Israeli officials have been so vocal about this. Their entire position is rooted in this long-standing American legal and security guarantee. For them, selling the most advanced fighter jet in the world to a neighbor, even one that could become a partner, is seen as a direct challenge to this core principle. And this chart just makes that strategic shift perfectly clear. Right now, Israel is the only country in the region with the F-35, giving it a unique advantage in the skies. In the future, well, the Royal Saudi Air Force, which is already pretty advanced, would add that same stealth capability. And that just fundamentally changes the entire calculus of air power in the region.
So let's just quickly break down Israel's specific worries. First, pretty obviously, is the erosion of its strategic dominance. Second, there's a fear that this incredibly sensitive stealth technology could somehow be compromised and get into the hands of adversaries like Russia, China, or Iran. And third, they're pushing to reduce the risk by asking for limits on the Saudi F-35s. For example, maybe not giving them the latest Block 4 software and hardware upgrades.
So, with all these competing interests, all these legal hurdles, where do we go from here? What are the possible outcomes? Let's take a look at the road ahead.
It's really important to remember that this is far from a done deal. The proposal has been under review for months, and it still needs a sign-off from the very highest levels of the U.S. government. We're talking the defense secretary, then the president, and finally, it has to be sent to Congress, where you can bet it will face a lot of debate. But here's a really interesting wrinkle.
What if this F-35 deal just doesn't happen? You know, it would be a huge mistake to think Saudi Arabia is just sitting around waiting. They absolutely have a plan B.
See, Riyadh is actively looking at other world-class fighter jets. Germany just lifted its veto on selling them more Eurofighter Typhoons. The French Dassault Rafale is another incredibly capable option. And if you look even further down the road, Saudi Arabia might even join the GCAP project, getting a stake in a sixth-generation fighter. Point is, they are going to modernize their air force, with or without the F-35.
And that brings us to our final and maybe most important question. Are we watching a moment where shared strategic interests, a shared view of threats, is about to completely rewrite decades of U.S. policy and regional alliances? The answer, whatever it is going to redraw the military map of the Middle East for generations to come.
Don't forget to hit subscribe if you want to stay ahead of the biggest shifts in aerospace, geopolitics, and defense innovation.